So 2020 has been the year of the underdog in the UFC. There have been so many upsets left, right and center. It feels like they've been on every single card as well. So today, in this video, I'm going to go through the top 5 underdogs of the year in 2020 for you guys. Starting with number 5, ending with number 1, and plus mentioning some honorable mentions on that list as well. They didn't quite make the cut of the top 5. Starting with my number 5 underdog of the year, joint 5th. Because I really can't decide who should go in number 5 right now. But number 5 on my list consists of 2 people. One of them is Alistair Overeem, and one of them is Overeem Arlovski. I mean, you cannot deny that not only were they the underdogs against some of their competition that they took on this year, especially in Arlovski's case, he was the underdog both times against Tanner Boser and Felipe Lins. Overeem was the underdog against Walt Harris, but then he was a slight favourite against Augusto Sakai. But I feel like both of them are just underdogs to reality itself. It's not even about the opponents that they took on this year. There's just a reality of a chin where we see it KO'd so many times, and we start to wonder if it's going to go. And Alistair Overeem and Overeem Arlovski have been the underdog against biology itself for the entire of 2020. I went into this year thinking, you know what, Reem and Arlovski, going to be tough if we see them in 2021. I don't know if that's going to happen. I actually picked Overeem to beat Walt Harris. I picked him to beat Augusto Sakai as well. One last run, Overeem, defying the odds of humanity itself to go on his one last run. And if he beats Volkov, he's talking about title elimination bouts next. So I'm going with Alistair Overeem at number 5, and also Overeem Arlovski, of course, a huge underdog against Tanner Boser. Didn't really, in my opinion, get the win, but it wasn't a robbery. I just thought it was a bit of a weird decision. In my opinion, I thought Tanner Boser landed too much, but Overeem Arlovski got the upset against Tanner Boser, also got the upset against Felipe Lins as well, and both of those guys. I mean, you're starting to think in Arlovski's career now, as soon as someone lands on his chin, it's over. So watching them fight, they are the underdog, whatever the odds of the matchup are. Whatever the odds of the matchup are, Arlovski and Overeem are the underdogs, because you understand that if one shot lands clean on their chin off of anyone, it really could be over. So I'm putting Overeem and Arlovski at number 5, joint 5th on my list of top 5 underdogs of the year. And we move on to number 4 on my list of top 5 underdogs, Brandon Moreno, the assassin baby Brandon Moreno. Looking forward to talking about this one, because Brandon Moreno, he got the credit he deserved for his performance against Deiveson Figueiredo, but I feel like it was such a coming out party for Brandon Moreno that you kind of have to give him a position on the top 5 underdogs of the year, because it wasn't just that he put up a good fight against a massive favourite in Deiveson Figueiredo. And I know after the fight, everyone had Brandon Moreno winning, right? I know that happened, okay? Everyone changes their prediction after the fight happens. I knew he was going to do this. You guys overlooked him. Shame on all the people overlooking Brandon Moreno. They were right to overlook Brandon Moreno, because the god of war, Deiveson Figueiredo, was on top of the throne at flyweight. There was, in my opinion, a very, very small chance of Brandon Moreno getting it done. Now, I considered Brandon Moreno the top threat at flyweight, and Cody Garbrandt included, to Deiveson Figueiredo. I put him number 1 on my list for a reason of my top 5 threats to Deiveson Figueiredo. However, it was very commonly perceived that Figueiredo was just going to beat this Moreno guy, and then we were going to move on to do the Garbrandt fight in March. In fact, it was so commonly perceived that Cody Garbrandt was doing interviews before the Figueiredo-Moreno bout, saying that, yeah, the plan's Figueiredo in March, you know? How did that work out for you? Because now we've got to see it again, and I feel like Moreno's made such an impact with his underdog performance, and it honestly, with some help from the UFC, he's made it on my top 5 list, because they did nothing but bring up the fact that he was that underdog. And I know they did that for Jennifer Maia as well. She's not in my top 5 list, by the way, because look at the differences. Jennifer Maia up against an unstoppable force in Valentina Shevchenko. Then you've got Brandon Moreno up against a bad man in Deiveson Figueiredo. Moreno almost beats him in some people's eyes that haven't watched a fight yet without commentary. If you haven't watched a fight yet without commentary, some people think Brandon Moreno won that fight with Deiveson Figueiredo. It was razor close. I know Jennifer Maia won a part of a round, and maybe you could give her that round. But, like, we're talking about real underdogs stepping up to the performance. Brandon Moreno put on a show, and he defied it wasn't just like he went out there and exposed Deiveson Figueiredo. Like, he took everything Figueiredo gave him. It wasn't just the fact that Moreno went out there and clipped Figueiredo on the chin in the first round, or he just showed that Figueiredo gasses out after the first round and he just cruised his way to a victory. It was like Figueiredo showed up. I know he had his problems before the fight as well, but Figueiredo showed up and did exactly what Figueiredo does for 5 whole rounds, and Moreno took it and stayed in there with him and made it really, really competitive. I thought Figueiredo won, or it should have been a draw. Either of those two results I would have been happy with, but Brandon Moreno needs to be at number 4 on my list. He's a star of the year as an underdog. Moving on. Plus, it's kind of a bit of recency bias, but I feel like Brandon Moreno deserves a spot on this list. Moving on to number 3 on this list of underdogs of 2020. We're talking about the whole year of 2020. I know a lot of people are thinking, who had one fight where they got an upset? I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about Charles Oliveira at number 3 on my list. Dude Bronx, underdog 2 times in a row this year. Once against Kevin Lee. He was supposed to lose there. I picked him to lose there. Proves me wrong. Does really well against Kevin Lee. It wasn't like a dominant performance the same way the Ferguson one was, which is another upset that he got this year. Twice he's been underdog this year. Ferguson, Kevin Lee. Beats both of them pretty handily. I know the Kevin Lee one was a little bit more close in the first round. It was actually a bit of a toss-up first round, if you remember it, because Kevin Lee was scrambling quite well. But then Charles Oliveira gets the submission. Then he goes on and takes on Tony Ferguson. Is equally a massive underdog, but even more of an underdog this time. I've never seen someone get a big win that's supposed to project their career forward and end up more of an underdog against other opponents, even though they showed us so much in their win beforehand. But Charles Oliveira, still a giant underdog against Tony Ferguson. I picked Tony Ferguson. Of course I did. It's El Kukui Tony Ferguson. And Charles Oliveira goes out there and isn't just the underdog and gets the upset win and flukes it, like I was mentioning before with when I was talking about Brandon Moreno. He didn't go out there and clip Ferguson on the chin, or he didn't go out there and just, Ferguson's chin's gone, I guess he's too old for it now. He dominated Ferguson start to finish in the grappling department. You have to give that credit. And Charles Oliveira being 2 underdogs in a row and pulling off both of them, I think deserves a place at number 3 on my list of top 5 underdogs of 2020, plus the competition level as well. Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, 2 top-level lightweights. I know not a lot of people give Kevin Lee the credit he deserves, but he has a lot of good wins at lightweight if you look past some of those losses. But still, Charles Oliveira deserves a place at number 3 on my list of top 5 underdogs. Now, moving on to number 2, and here's where things get interesting. It's Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is number 2 on my list, and I feel like now I've said the name Jan Blachowicz, you know exactly who's at number 1 on my list, because Jan Blachowicz, I don't even know how old he is. I believe he's 37 years of age. I just want to take a random guess that might be the case of how old he is. He's 37 years of age, going to be 38 in February, so he's not even on the right side of 37 here. We're looking at his last few weeks of 37, okay? Like, he's an older guy, resurrected himself, and again, just like Charles Oliveira, not just one upset win against Dominic Reyes, previously in the year, February. Same situation. Corey Anderson is the guy to go on and take on John Jones. That's the guy they're building up. He just beat Johnny Walker at 244. Now he's turning around to get a rematch against Blachowicz that Blachowicz has already lost. He's not just a new matchup that's a bit of an underdog because they think that the styles are going to be bad. He got dominated in the grappling by Corey Anderson beforehand, and now he's the older guy taking on Corey Anderson again in a rematch, and the UFC's putting all their weight behind Corey Anderson. John Jones is in the crowd, ready to make the fight with Corey Anderson happen. Jan Blachowicz demonstrates the legendary Porsche power, shows Corey Anderson who Broly is, and gets the KO in the first round beautifully. Like, these are dominant finishes in the first round, and against Dominic Reyes as well. We can't forget about that one. Jan Blachowicz beat Corey Anderson so bad that John Jones, who was originally planning on taking on Corey Anderson for the light heavyweight belt, decided, you know what? Maybe not. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? So it was just a bit of a weird situation. Jan Blachowicz gets the upset, then does it again against Dominic Reyes, who I picked Dominic Reyes to win that bout. I think a lot of people did at the time because Jan Blachowicz is just a little bit older. Will he defy the father of time one more time in his career? And Jan Blachowicz goes out there, not only beats Dominic Reyes, but a lot of people at that time thought every person with a fucking brain and a set of eyes knows that Dominic Reyes beat John Jones. And Jan Blachowicz got the upset against Dominic Reyes and did it in brutal fashion. And this wasn't one where he just landed a big shot like he did against Corey Anderson. This was a situation where, from the get-go of the fight, Dominic Reyes couldn't do anything to Jan Blachowicz without getting blasted in the ribs with a kick or smacked on the chin with a big hook. Everything Jan Blachowicz did won him exchanges against Dominic Reyes in that bout, and he was flawless start to finish, eventually getting a finish in the fight in brutal fashion. Jan Blachowicz, two-time underdog, two-time upsetter. One of them was for the light heavyweight belt. The only person at number 1 on my list that can even beat Jan Blachowicz's resume at this point is Glover Teixeira. And I want to tell you why, because he had got an upset against Santos, and Santos beat Blachowicz. So that's kind of what I'm judging number 1 and 2 on right now. I know Glover Teixeira didn't really get the belt with his upset, which is a huge deal for Jan Blachowicz to do, but Glover Teixeira was a bigger underdog twice in a row. I know Jan Blachowicz was a big underdog against Dominic Reyes, but Teixeira was that big of an underdog against Anthony Smith. He was that big of an underdog against Thiago Santos. I remember he beat Anthony Smith, and I was like, right, well, I don't know if he's going to beat anyone else. This might be where the luck runs out, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm going to pick Thiago Santos, and when he signed to fight Thiago Santos, I thought there's not a stupider matchup you can make. If you're an older guy and your chin is going, why on earth would you take on one of the most powerful punchers in the entire division? And Glover Teixeira said, forget that. I don't care what you're telling me. I'm 41 years of age, and I'm going to go out there and beat Thiago Santos and Anthony Smith in the same calendar year of 2020. And he does both of them in great fashion. And not only does he get the upset, something more impressive to me, he gets the upset within the fight itself. It's not just that he wins the fight and he gets the upset win. He was even further down in odds after the first round with Anthony Smith. He gets smacked up badly against Thiago Santos in the first round. He gets dropped badly. He even gets dropped badly in the third round as well, but then turns it all around. He's performing underdog maneuvers within the contest itself. And Glover Teixeira in that case is the number 1 on my list for top 5 underdogs of the year, 41 years of age, compared to Jan Blachowicz's 37. And plus, this is a case of Glover Teixeira where Jan Blachowicz ain't been KO'd that many times. Got KO'd once by Thiago Santos his entire career, got decision by Gustafsson, where he just got taken down a couple of times, got decision by Corey Anderson as well. But you look at Glover Teixeira, he's got KO'd by Gustafsson really badly, multiple times nearly in the fight as well, but really badly KO'd in the 5th round. Got KO'd by Rumble Johnson in the 1st round. If you told me all the way back in 2016 August that I believe, I'm just going to take a random guess, 37-year-old Glover Teixeira is going to mount a comeback over the next 4 years and get back towards the belts and earn his title shot again, I would have called you a liar, and I would have called you retarded. And Glover Teixeira, at 41 years of age, in my opinion, has earned his title shot at light heavyweight. Please, Adesanya, do not steal this from Glover Teixeira and fight Robert Whittaker in a rematch, I beg of you, because I need to see Glover Teixeira get one more chance at the belt. He's continued his one last run, and listen, you can go before that as well. He beat Nikita Krylov. That's an upset win, so he could even be the underdog fighter of 2019. Kutalabe, he was an underdog. I like Glover Teixeira. I think he's the man of the year in terms of underdogs. And now we'll get into my honourable mentions of the year for underdogs. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about Shayna Dobson. You know, it's different levels of competition. Maria Agapova, it's like we realised, she ain't that good. Master of boxing, not really. You swing like a retard, you got taken down. That's kind of what happens. But Shayna Dobson, biggest odds of the year because, you know, certain upsets don't happen in certain divisions. You know, in the lower divisions of women's flyweight, the upsets are less likely just because the favourite tends to win a lot of the time because there's not a lot of there's not a lot of one-shot stop the fight power. So there's not really any chance of flukes compared to the heavyweight division and etc. and etc. But Shayna Dobson, of course, got a huge upset over Maria Agapova. But I just think it wasn't as big because of the level of competition. And because of the fact that it didn't even, like, Santos showed up good against Teixeira, landing big KO blows, rocking him multiple times. But Agapova showed up, and I was worried after the first round that there was going to be an upset. And that's what I don't want to worry about in fights. But Shayna Dobson deserves an honourable mention, but just one of them this year. One upset. Talk to me when you do Arlovski type shit. Talk to me when you do the Teixeira and the Blachowicz type stuff. Shayna Dobson, not way past her prime. Gets the upset against Maria Agapova, I understand. Very good upset indeed, but I just don't see it. She got KO'd at the start of this year as well, you know, so I'm not going to put her in my top 5 underdogs, but she deserves a mention. Moving on, Jennifer Maia. Spoke about her earlier in the fight, or in the video. Jennifer Maia, she won a fucking round. Like, fair enough if you want to talk about her top 5 upsets according to commentators of the year 2020. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about upsets of the year. She won a round. She got dominated. So So yeah, I just thought I'd put her down there because I know people want to mention her being an underdog and how big of an underdog she was against Shevchenko, but like, you fucking laid on her for a round and did fuck all else other than that, so fuck off. Moving on to another underdog of the year, Robert Whittaker. In my opinion, deserves a lot of credit. He was a close to an underdog against Darren Till. Evens fight going in there. I think he was a slight favourite against Darren Till. Gets the job done, and you're talking about a guy who is a champion, who's been through KO losses in his career before. You had the war with Romero. Now he gets chinned by Adesanya, who, remember before that, I know Gyno Sanya now is got lights out KO power, even if he catches Paulo Costa on the cheek. However, Israel Adesanya back then, we saw him in the Gastelum fight. He couldn't get rid of Gastelum. Even if there were 10 seconds more in that round, he probably would have finished Gastelum. But still, he didn't show lights-out KO power there. He didn't show it against Brad Tavares. And we've seen Tavares KO'd by Whittaker and Shabazian since that moment as well. So it was kind of an assumption that Whittaker can take this guy's shots. He took Romero's shots for 5 rounds. And Adesanya just went to a close decision with Gastelum. But Adesanya goes out there, gets the KO win over Whittaker. And all of a sudden, there's questions like, wow, did Whittaker take too much damage? Is this KO from Adesanya? First of all, it was a perfect shot, and he did it twice in one fight as well. So I'm not saying it was a fluke. I'm just saying there was a question afterwards in that fight, whereas is Whittaker's chin gone, and how's he going to do moving forward? And he jumps right back in there against Cannonier. The fight gets cancelled. You're thinking, oh my god, is this going to be another case of Whittaker not being able to get fights signed? Signs with Darren Till. Usually losers take on losers. He takes on Darren Till, recent winner in the division over Kelvin Gastelum, beats him, then takes on Jared Cannonier, another streaking contender in the division with KO power in both hands. The questions about Whittaker's chin, he got dropped in a Till fight as well, and he still goes out there. I picked him to win against Cannonier. He was the underdog there and gets it done in the space of a couple of months and turns around his entire career. So from what was on the line, I think if Whittaker loses to Till or Cannonier, you're looking at a different direction of a career, and Whittaker might have salvaged himself a career while he's still young, looked better than ever, and put on a good performance against 2 tough, talented contenders. Moving on, Bobby Green. It's another guy I want to mention on my list in honourable mentions. Great performance all year. You shouldn't be going on 5-fight win streaks at this age in your career, Bobby Green. He's been KO'd a couple of times, or once, I believe, against Dustin Poirier, and I think another time before that as well. But still, Bobby Green puts on great performances this year. Beat Thiago Moises, who is this 25-year-old up-and-comer, and I know he was the favourite of the year in a lot of... He wasn't the favourite of the year. He was the favourite in a lot of the fights that he had in this year. But still, you don't put together 5 wins back to back to back to back, because he beat Moises, let's just be real. And I'll do a top 5 robberies of 2020 tomorrow, I believe, as well, so stay tuned for that. But still, Bobby Green, in his ripe old age, 5 fights in a row, good wins from Bobby Green. But moving on to a massive underdog that I don't think gets enough credit, and I just burped through that sentence, Joaquin Buckley. I know people just know of him as the wheel kick guy, but I remember a Joaquin Buckley that came into the UFC on short notice, got KO'd brutally, twice in one fight against Kevin Holland, badly. And it was like, what's going to happen with Joaquin Buckley now? Is he going to leave the UFC? He's taken this fight on short notice. He got KO'd badly. He looked alright in the fight, but he didn't have much damage to take in one fight in your debut. And then, just when you thought all else couldn't get worse for Buckley, he signs a fight with Impa Kasanganay, undefeated prospect, running through the UFC, or not running through the UFC, but coming through the UFC on the come-up of his career. Joaquin Buckley accepts a fight with him on 2 months removed from his Kevin Holland KO, and I was saying to myself, wow, this is bad management. He's going to get KO'd again, but Joaquin Buckley doesn't just pull off the upset, but pulls off an upset that changes his career from that point onwards against an unranked guy. He pulls off the best upset, in my opinion, of all time in terms of what he got on the other end of it. A lot of people get upsets, they get their fucking win bonus. All good. Joaquin Buckley gets an upset against Kasanganay. His whole career changes. If he loses that fight, he's probably cut from the UFC, especially if he gets finished in that fight as well, because if he loses that one, he wouldn't have had the best record. He'd already lost twice coming into the UFC before the Kevin Holland KO loss. Took it on short notice, turn around after the KO loss. It's not looking too good. Then he gets the KO win. It's the greatest KO of all time. And he's back on track. And now he's been doing really well this year as well. So I think an underdog of 2020 should go to Joaquin Buckley. But those are my top 5. Arlovski, Overeem joint 5th. Moreno at 4. Oliveira at 3. Blachowicz 2. Teixeira at 1. Second prime Teixeira, you can't beat it. But second prime Blachowicz, who knows? We'll see. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. See you later.